I do feel like you need to have some degree of delusion in some sense because it's hard sometimes because a lot of people around you are going to tell you like that what you're doing is wrong. I mean, I feel like people need to like think about why they're doing all this. Are you doing it for, money and fame? Or are you doing it because you actually have something to say or you have something to express? I hate to say it, but a lot of people do it for money and fame. And when they don't get money or fame, then they're wondering why. And it's like, yeah, well, your priorities are all wrong. You have to be a creative first where you're going to work really hard knowing you're not going to get anything for probably a very long time and that you might never actually get anything. I did expect at some point that I would probably monetize this. I do feel like you'd need to have some degree of delusion in some sense because it's hard sometimes because a lot of people around you are going to tell you like that what you're doing is wrong. And the reason being is because a lot of people around you are quitters and they have quit on their dreams. And so they're kind of saying something in their own perspective and because they don't sometimes see how big something can become.
AI doing this, it's not the same. It's like you need to feel to express, and I'm finding that
Yeah.
we're just short circuiting that whole part that makes music so impactful.
Yeah, I think you need that humanity part. And I think that's also why I have a fan base because you kind of feel me as a human being in the songs. Maybe AI will eventually emulate a human touch, but for now it's not really doing that. It's just repurposing and rehashing ideas that have already been done anyways, instead of like maybe thinking of new things, maybe thinking of different perspectives. So I guess maybe if one day AI can create their own perspective, then yeah, maybe people should be worried more. But I don't need like AI to make music. I already make music so fast anyways that I can literally release songs every week and I still think there's more people that want to listen to another human than to listen to, robot or, computer code. You try stuff and you feel sometimes like you're bound to an algorithm that kind of decides, or are you going to put some marketing money into it and promote your posts and stuff? And it's like, where are you going to go with all this at the end of the day? Like, is it worth it? I don't know. I don't know who owns TikTok in the US anymore. It's very like vague and very shady, and that's what I've noticed. I've noticed that with YouTube music channels, you know, it becomes its own community until it's not anymore. I mean in the 90s you saw it with grunge music. Grunge music was a movement, and then corporations came in and kind of, destroyed it. And in my opinion, that's just how it is and how it's always going to be. Those big corporations will always do questionable things, and I don't see Spotify, disappearing anytime soon. And it helps me. It helps me as an artist. I have a really amazing show coming up, February 13th, at the Dance Cave in Toronto. I mean, it's also Lee's Palace. It's just one room inside of Lee's Palace. So it's going to be a great show. I think it starts at 7 p.m. It's going to be like a Valentine's Day, because it's so close to Valentine's Day. I mean, this is the thing. Like at my shows, there's usually a lot of women that come to my shows. So if you're a single person, then that's probably one of the best places to be at. And yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be performing for a while, and I do a lot of requests usually. So that's also a pretty cool aspect of my live performances, especially when people are knowledgeable of your music and they're like, "Oh, I want to hear this random song off of this random album compilation you did." So that's always really really fun. And I mean, I'm going to provide some free t-shirts as well for the show. I'm releasing a song on January 30th on Sam Feld's label, and the song is called Better Times. And I think that's going to be released on his label and on Disco Wax, either Disco Wax or Spinnin' Records.
Hello and welcome to season 2 of Is This New Internet? We have video, but the vibes and the vision are going to be exactly the same. My guests are going to be calling in from all over the world because this internet thing is kind of a global phenomenon. This podcast serves as an inspiration for a lot of my writing that will be found on my free Substack. It'll cost you absolutely nothing, so make sure you're subscribed to get all updates right into your inbox. So my guest kicking off season 2 is Tep No. Tep No is a musician with over 500 million streams on Spotify, almost 650,000 monthly active listeners, utilizing every single tool that this new internet can provide to create an audience for yourself online. He's of course incredibly talented, but his story is one of grit, determination, perseverance, and experimentation. Tep No also has a show coming up in Toronto at Lee's Palace on the 13th of February, so make sure you get your ticket before they all run out. All of his links, including his mailing list, will be in the description of this upload, so make sure you're following and supporting across all socials. For now, enjoy the episode. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers. Put your hands together for Chris. Chris, welcome to Is This the New Internet?
Hi. I'm so happy to be joining your podcast.
It's great to have you here. I met Chris through the Toronto podcasting network because Chris's wife is the reason, honestly, why I actually know people in this space, because I'm an introvert and I'm eternally grateful for the extroverts who identify, hey, this person's new. They could do with a bit of a helping hand. And yeah, it's thanks to your wife, Jess, that I feel really comfortable in this space. So first up, I want to thank you. Thank Jess. This is amazing. I'm really enjoying, firstly, being in Toronto and then being able to pursue this. It's amazing. And then when the opportunity came up to have you on the podcast, this was something I absolutely wanted to lean into because I love music. I've been into it my whole life, and seeing someone's doing this professionally, someone who is really embracing every single tool that the internet can provide to forge a path for themselves in this industry, I think is absolutely inspiring. So I'd like to take it back to the beginning. Chris, tell us a little bit about you. If you had to summarize your musical journey and who you are musically in one sentence, what would that be?
Oh my God, one sentence. That's really short, but I guess I'm someone that's passionate about music, and basically music is a huge part of my life. That's me in one sentence. I mean, kind of defined my life in a big way, and it's brought me to so many different directions for me. So I would say, yeah, music is a huge part of my life. Like I don't want to say like musically inclined, because I feel like when you're passionate about something, you're probably going to be inclined about it. If you do something for so many hours, you're probably going to start getting pretty good at it.
So could you tell us a little bit about, firstly, your musical journey? Like, what instruments do you play, and what kind of music do you feel best represents how you want to express yourself?
I mean, I was singing for a big part of my life. You know, I was singing when I was really young. Started playing drums when I was 12. I also started playing guitar shortly after. I was listening to a lot of metal music. I was listening to a lot of different, a lot of punk music as well, punk rock. Some rap music as well. I would say like one of the first artists that really like touched me in some way, I would say, would be Deftones. They're still going strong even now. Back then I was also listening a lot to like Limp Bizkit and Korn, and I listened to even a lot of Backstreet Boys before that, which was like a huge influence on productions and songwriting. And I mean, it's definitely interesting now because I mean, Max Martin is from Sweden. It's not like it's his first language either, and I feel like maybe the songwriting and the fact that everything was very catchy but also simple at the same time, it kind of definitely had an impact. Making songs that can mean so much, but lyrically they tend to be a bit vague and open to interpretation. I think that was a big thing for me, especially someone like me who didn't, who who was kind of learning English. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like I learned a lot how feeling came out of music without sometimes understanding what the lyrics were saying. That's a huge thing. I mean, you can even hear it in my music now. Like a lot of times when I'm making songs, I don't really have an intent. I just fill in melodies with random words sometimes. I feel like sometimes I'm trying to say something, but I just don't really know what it is at the time. And then it takes me sometimes years to just go back into something and realize, oh, yeah, I was maybe writing about that. Nirvana did that a lot. They were filling melodies with words. They weren't really trying to have a specific intent with what they were writing, but they still obviously revolutionized, American rock, and I think they're still very influential now.
So you mentioned that learning English to a
Yeah.
listener, they may not be immediately obvious that English is actually not your first language. What you said about second languages and using filler words, kind of, I find
Yeah.
the beauty in music is that it encapsulates an emotion that kind of goes beyond words sometimes. So even instrumental music can absolutely move you because it communicates that feeling to you in a way that sometimes words cannot. So as someone who was straddling writing in multiple languages and writing in maybe not your first language, like
Yeah.
how has that entire package of, sonic communication, how's that sort of helped get your message across?
I mean, I was born in Montreal. I was pretty much raised in French suburbs. I'm also Greek at the same time, so I was also raised in that kind of culture. Like a lot of people sometimes they ask like an artist like how they come up with stuff and how they interpret something, and I feel like how someone has been brought up culturally, I think will have a massive impact. But definitely, I find Quebec is a very different world just because of the language difference. There's definitely a big European influence that I find you don't get as much in Toronto. I find in Toronto there's a lot more of an American influence. Just living in Quebec, I find there's so many cultures there that you just get exposed to so many different things. Latin culture in Quebec, and I mean you can definitely hear it in the music I make. There's definitely a big Latin influence, and because of that, I have a pretty big Latin fan base as well. That's the beauty of music sometimes is that you make it and you don't really think where it's going to go, and then you realize that all over the world different people from different cultures are listening to the music. But yeah, I would say like English as a second language, I think is a big influence in the sense that, a lot of the fans are also ESL speakers. Like I've noticed that playing in the US sometimes, and I see like people who are, people who are Asian, people who are Indian, people who are Spanish coming to the shows. I guess in some ways it represents who I am. I'm less and less that now, which is a shame because it's like you go back I go back to Montreal, and then it's like, oh, like you kind of get like reminded where you were from, and how you were raised in such a different culture compared to Toronto, which I feel like a lot of times I don't want to dog on Toronto, but Toronto is trying to be sometimes everything and nothing at the same times.
For someone who hasn't heard your music before, I know it would be the easiest way would just be to play some of your music for them with copyright and stuff. I don't want to tread into funny territory. So if you had to describe your sound and your writing style to someone who's never heard your music before, how do you let them know what to expect when they finally visited your Spotify page?
I mean, I feel like a lot of it is maybe chill, easy listening music that also progresses at the same time. I mean, I definitely get people hooked in some way that maybe they don't expect it. They're expecting an experience, and as they're maybe digging deeper into my library, then they start realizing like just how deep it goes. It's like it's progressive chill music. I just try not to make things exactly the same from start to finish. Like I find I try to keep things simple, but at the same time, I usually add extra elements as the songs go. My vocals are very, soft sung. I'm not very on the nose, and I feel like that's actually one of the reasons why I've had success too, because I try to keep it open to interpretation for the listener. I think that's something that's maybe missing in modern music sometimes.
I hope this has whet your curiosity, folks, listeners at home, to listen to some of Chris's music. Don't worry, you don't need to go far to find it because it's all going to be in the description of this upload. So I'll work with Chris to get a proper uh, assorted chocolate box of Chris's tracks so you can get the
Yeah, that's what it
entire
feels like
range,
actually.
the entire range of everything that Chris makes. So I really want to talk to you about how you've gone from like a creative, passionate person into turning music into something that is your life. You've been doing this for quite a while. You have a storied
Yeah.
history in the space of trying things out, seeing what works, trying new platforms. Of course, plenty of live shows as well. So you're not just completely relying on the internet, you're
Yeah.
supplementing the internet with your activities. So I think we should start from the biggest place first, I guess, Spotify. Everyone
Yeah.
kind of consumes music on Spotify, either podcasts, uh, playlists. It's a very complex ecosystem. So from a listener's perspective, we just think, oh, I like this artist. I have my playlist that me and my friends have been curating. I should listen to that. But as an artist, navigating this space where attention has changed, the way we listen to music and discover and consume it has changed. Could you walk the audience through kind of how was it back then when it comes to discovering music, and how is the landscape right now?
From the age of like 17 to 27, that's like 10 years of me just making music and just having no fan base. And I guess I definitely had the privilege of honing my skills and getting better at it. Getting your stuff out there was very hard. You definitely had to maybe be signed on a label to get any kind of attention. And I mean I was in a metal band. We were getting some interest. We were thinking maybe signing with Roadrunner Records. I mean, Roadrunner Records they had Slipknot, they had Nickelback, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm gonna like make it with my band. But um as Jessica even gonna talk about to you maybe in private, I mean, it's hard to keep a band together. There's people going into different directions, and I mean, when you're dealing with musicians, there's a lot of people who are pretty much dysfunctional, and you pretty much have to like babysit them, and it's very very tough. So after my band disbanded, I was just like, you know what? I also like dance music. I like pop music, and so I just made a bunch of albums and they were awful. Yeah, I mean, promotional wise, it was super, super hard. I was finishing my master's degree in French and I was going to become a teacher. And then I noticed a lot of YouTube channels that they had a lot of really chill music. They seemed like they had an audience. And so what I thought, I think the right strategy would be to maybe listen to whatever those artists are doing on that platform and just like make your own version and try to get relationships with the people who own those YouTube channels. If you could get your song uploaded on one of the bigger YouTube channels, like there's like MrSuicideSheep, there was Mr. Revels, there was another one that's not really big anymore called La Belle Musique. Through those YouTube channels, I pretty much started getting known for my music. And I just feel like at that time in 2014, there was a good window of opportunity and just went with it and just kept on going since then. And as the landscape has changed, I mean, I'm still there and I'm still thriving, you have to be good, but you also like need to like understand the right timing and right window of opportunity, because I don't even think I was the most talented artist back then. I was just, trying to emulate other artists who were making songs I thought were cool and were different than your pop landscape. I mean, eventually record labels did get involved into all that and kind of wrecked the whole ecosystem of those YouTube channels. But like at the time I took advantage of that and build a career around that. I mean, for me, I think I probably wouldn't have made it otherwise. As a creative, sometimes you need to like know what works and what doesn't work for you in terms of promotion and music, and I'm still here now. So
It's incredible hearing those YouTube channels that you brought up, because that was my bread and butter of listening when I was
yeah.
in university. I was in uni from 2010 to 14. Mr. Suicide Sheep, absolute favorite. Glitch Hop community, La Belle
Yeah.
Musique, all that stuff was just absolutely, it's
It was
amazing.
super popular back then. Crazy how like something can be something and then it's just after a few years it just totally kind of disappears.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the way like content ID started coming in to really stop any person from contributing to this sort of stuff. This ecosystem was
Yeah.
so rich because of how open the gates were, right? And anyone download from Bandcamp, upload it onto YouTube. That was like so many people's
Yeah.
flow. And also Bandcamp back then, like obviously Radiohead with their In Rainbows album with the
Yeah.
pay what you want model kind of opened everyone on the internet's eyes to the possibility of, hey, I'll give it to you for free. I want you to love what I make and come back and maybe buy and support it later. So, did you have any forays into this model when you were,
Oh yeah.
finding your feet in the space?
That's what I was doing. Yeah, I was definitely doing that back in the day on SoundCloud. All my releases were free to download and I find it's still like that now. I mean, now I have my mailing list on tepno.com where people join and then every week I send an MP3 of the releases before the songs get released. It's like you're a creative and you're trying to not ask for money for anything from the listener. I think it ties into Spotify where you're just spending a monthly subscription to listen to as much music as you want. I mean, for me, that model works. For other artists, I mean, maybe not, but it's just life where something's going to resonate more than something else. And sometimes you don't really have any control over that.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think that every musician should be making money doing this. I think the best ones should be. And for sure, I mean, I would say the environment is very much rigged into labels' favors. They have priorities over all the big Spotify playlists. I mean, even me, I would get playlisted a lot more back then, and now I don't get playlisted as much as I used to. But like it's okay. Like I understand the environment. I'm happy that I'm like there and still doing my thing. Sorry, I'm going on random tangents.
No need to apologize. This is why we're here. Like, I want to hear all of your random tangents because, you displayed a lot of grit with that 10 years, well, when you said you weren't really getting any followers and you weren't
Yeah.
finding your traction. And I think there's something pretty inspirational in that you kept going, then you found your niche, you found your people. So could you tell me a bit about that process? Have you thought about how, it went from this passionate person who's making music nonstop to finally finding an audience and finding the right distribution channels to find your people? Like, who were these first iterations of your people who truly vibe with their music? Do you know much
Yeah.
about them? Do you know how to reach them? How was that relationship forged and then built?
I mean, it's super interesting because I find there's people all the time that message me and they're like, "Oh, I've been like a fan of your music for like 10 years." And sometimes like you've never heard of them. And so it's interesting when they reach out and it's like, "Oh, that's amazing." I definitely had the privilege that I was able to like hone my craft for 10 years. Most people just don't have the hours, they don't have the location. I mean, my parents were cool getting all my recording stuff in the basement, and I would record a bunch of stuff, and most of it was terrible. I know Jessica keeps a lot of those songs on her phone to listen to. You're in the major leagues. It takes a lot of hours, I think, to find yourself. It's not even like to find fans. I think you have to find yourself and find and get really good. And I feel like most people don't have the dedication or time or will to get there. And it's not always someone's fault too. I mean, life gets in the way. People need to go and work to pay rent and live life and this and that. And so you really have to spend the hours. I'm not a slow creator. I create really fast, but to create something really good, yeah, it does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of crafting, and it's a lot of time where you have to, like, I guess, pick and choose what you want in life. Do you want to hang out with your buddies all the time and go to clubs or be in relationships and go and date and this and that? Or are you going to spend the hours, getting better at, mixing a song or playing guitar or singing or songwriting? I mean, I find there's not a lot of very good songwriters. So when you're a good songwriter, you really stand out. If you're a good songwriter and good producer, I think you find your base that way. I see that a lot with American artists, and I think it's the way they're brought up, that they think they always put the cart before the horse. They're always like, how do I promote myself? How do I put myself out there? And then you listen to the product, and the product is not good enough. You need to work on more things to actually find the thing that really going to resonate with other people. And a lot of times it needs to resonate with you first. Sometimes artists, they try to think of what someone else is going to like, and then sometimes it dilutes what you're making. And I feel like that's what I was doing for 10 years, from 2004 to 14. I was mostly, you're listening to Lady Gaga, you're listening to Kesha, you're like, oh, okay, I can make music like that, and maybe people are going to like that, but that's just not how it works. You're still naive, and you don't realize just how much of a marketing push and how much money is being put behind those acts, so that you see them in your face all the time. I mean, I see it a lot nowadays with Stranger Things. The season just came out and they're being promoted everywhere. I mean, I play like Microsoft Flight Simulator, and they have a Stranger Things expansion on it. Like, that's crazy. But
Yeah.
but like, people don't realize, like, the amount of money for something to be like in your face all the time. And that
Yeah.
product still has to be good too. That's another thing too.
You're like a story of grit and determination. Like, the talent like is there, but like honing this talent seems to be a massive task that you took upon yourself. You mentioned the whole finding yourself and the self-reflection aspects. If we have a budding musician listening to this podcast right now, come up with some questions that they should be asking themselves to help, calibrate their path towards finding that personal, truly innate inspiration. How do you make sure that you're on the right course when you're writing and creating? Hello, just a quick interruption in your episode. If you're listening on YouTube, I'd love it if you gave me a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed. Same thing with any other podcast platforms that you might be listening on. A subscription and a rating would go a really long way. We're hosted on Spotify, so make sure you're recommending us to your friends as well. Thanks. Back to the episode.
I mean, I feel like people need to like think about why they're doing all this. Are you doing it for, money and fame? Or are you doing it because you actually have something to say, or you have something to express? I hate to say it, but a lot of people do it for money and fame. And when they don't get money or fame, then they're wondering why. And it's like, yeah, well, your priorities are all wrong. You have to be a creative first, where you're going to work really hard knowing you're not going to get anything for probably a very long time, and that you might never actually get anything. I did expect at some point that I would probably monetize this. I do feel like you'd need to have some degree of delusion in some sense, because because it's hard sometimes because a lot of people around you are going to tell you like that what you're doing is wrong, and the reason being is because a lot of people around you are quitters and they have quit on their dreams, and so they're kind of saying something in their own perspective, and because they don't sometimes see how big something can become. I would say being a successful creative is just not in the cards for modern society a lot of times. So a lot of people who make it, usually they come from privileged backgrounds because it just requires so many resources and so much time and dedication. And if you're good, you're gonna find an audience. So I find when there are people who stand out, I feel like they stand out in a big way. And most people from first world countries, I mean, they have phones. They can just grab their phones and record something.
Hmm. So I think it's very interesting what you said about things being harder now, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of people just assume that, oh, we have all these services, we have infinite access to people through social media, we have this internet that's connecting us technically to 8 billion people around the world. Yet
Yeah.
at the same time, everyone is kind of doing it as well. So
Yeah.
while the barrier to entry has dropped, the competition has seriously increased. As someone who's been in this industry and having, been in a position of, you've had your own community once this exploded in this sort of a way, what do you see? How have things changed from your perspective? Are there any young whippersnappers coming in doing some incredible stuff that would have otherwise not had that platform? Or are you finding that we've, almost consolidated?
I mean, I think with TikTok, there's definitely a lot of content creators that have made it based off of being good with the video format. I feel like you have to find what works for you, but like I know that TikTok is the place to have a music career nowadays, to have even an acting career, to be a comedian. TikTok is the place for that. If you're an entertainer, that's pretty much where you need to be and you need to be good at. And that can be depressing to some people, including me a lot of times, where you try stuff and you feel sometimes like you're bound to an algorithm that kind of decides, or are you going to put some marketing money into it and promote your posts and stuff? And it's like, where are you going to go with all this at the end of the day? Like, is it worth it? And who knows? TikTok in 5 years, who knows where it's going to be? Maybe it's going to be there, maybe it's going to be something else. I feel
Mhm.
like there's always something else that pops up. And I mean, in the US, they were going to ban TikTok, and then and then they reverted back on it. Now TikTok is I don't know who owns TikTok in the US anymore, but it's some random corporation. It's very like vague and very shady, and those platforms usually help a few who can like maximize the platform very early on. And then after that, a lot of times bigger corporations will try to block that. That's what I've noticed. I've noticed that with YouTube music channels, you know, it becomes its own community until it's not anymore. I mean, in the 90s, you saw it with grunge music. Grunge music was a movement, and then corporations came in and kind of, destroyed it. And in my opinion, that's just how it is and how it's always going to be. So a lot of early adopters of anything are usually going to benefit the most, and
Mhm.
just seems like YouTube, I guess, is the one that's sticking around the longest. I find if you can like really have success on YouTube, then you're going to be fine. Same thing with Spotify. There's been a lot of negative talks with, Spotify, putting money into arms business, and how I see it is that most big corporation is doing something shady. So are you going to go with Spotify, or are you going to go with Apple Music or whatever? Those big corporations will always do questionable things, and I don't see Spotify, disappearing anytime soon. And it helps me.
Mhm.
It helps me as an artist.
And that's like the trade-off, right? you can have your perspectives on wanting to do the right thing, and but then again, you're also a little fish in this big ocean, and you
Yeah,
need to stand out. There's no such thing as a perfect solution. It's always going to have some sort of a trade-off.
exactly.
So we talked about YouTube and Spotify. Do you have any other platforms that you think give you the returns in the sense of building a community, driving streams and attention, making sure your music is in front of the right people? You mentioned a mailing list. As a marketer,
Yeah.
I am on a bit of a vendetta against algo-driven feeds, and you saying you're mentioning the mailing list without even being prompted was music to my ears. So could you talk to me about the sense of ownership of a community that you as a creative have through having this email list?
Yeah, I think it's super essential. I think you know, just to keep people updated. And most people don't change their emails anyways, so they keep their emails for a long time. Um, I mean, I do use Instagram a lot. I find Instagram is great for me for like building community, and it's interesting that I can be doing that for what 12 years now. And you just realize the more you do all this, the more you don't really know what's going on. I think being a creative and I guess an entrepreneur, like running your own small business, you just know there's always uncertainties. I think the most solid thing that I've built is followers on Spotify, and everything builds off of that. Like that show at the dance cave. I mean, it's being promoted on Spotify, and people get an email saying, "Hey, Tep No is going to be in your city." I get a lot of ticket sales through Spotify, and I get a lot of, you know, ticket sales through Instagram, but definitely Spotify is, for me, is the place to be. I'm the kind of person who I put all my eggs in the Spotify basket, and I still am, and it's giving me good returns. The TikTok part, that's an extra thing. I would love to build and get more fans that way. But if it doesn't work that way, then it doesn't. And it's not the end of the world. I've had songs get chosen on TikTok for various things that it's not like I promoted them on TikTok. It's also the kind of music that I make, is that I find some of the music is good for selling things. I think as a creative, sometimes people forget that it's never about you as the creative. I think if you're able to provide something of value, whether it's entertainment, whether it's, you know, informative, whether it's me, like, you know, having songs to sell their shirts or whatever, then you're gonna have success. As soon as you put yourself maybe at the center stage more, I feel like it doesn't work as much because you're not creating value. If you can provide value, then yeah, you can have a long career as a creative.
You've really cut through a lot of the noise in and in what people talk about when putting yourself out there. Does someone want to consume what I'm putting out? And it's such a simple thought,
Yeah.
but it's when you're caught up in that creative process, that question often gets bumped down, kicked down the road, really to be assessed a little bit later. So, do you have any, your own creative safeguards as part of your process to make sure that this very core question is being addressed?
I mean, I feel like I used to have more safeguards, like maybe not do stuff that's like too off brand, but I feel like as time goes on, I just follow whatever I feel passionate about. But like if you're making different types of music and people are not feeling it, then that's fine, because people are probably going to go and listen to the songs that they're into. I do that a lot with artists I listen to, where I'm probably going to listen to maybe one or two albums of theirs. And I mean, sometimes they just release an album. Maybe I check it out quickly. Is it my thing? Oh, maybe it's not my thing. That's fine. I'll still listen to them, but like listen to a different album. You're still supporting them as artists. And like, I don't know, you can't expect your fans to support everything you do, or else that's just being a maybe a Taylor Swift fan, where you're really going to support anything and everything regardless if the quality is good or not. And I feel like that's kind of what happened with her last album. Her last album was not very good, and I mean, a lot of her fans were like kind of defending it, but not really, because they also listened to the album, and they were like, it's not really, but she's my favorite artist, whatever.
Swifties, please don't attack us.
Yeah.
But what you said about supporting artists, I thought was an incredible point, because supporting artists means different things depending on the size of the artist and their following, the place
Yeah.
in which they perform, and the distribution channels. So as an independent artist, let's say someone who isn't signed for major labels, they release their own stuff. If someone has to pick just a few ways in which to support you and be a part of your community, which aspects move the needle most for you?
I mean, just because for so many years I've built the Spotify followers and whatnot. I mean, Spotify definitely moves the needle more. Like I make a lot of different music. I just feel like being a creative is you have to do a lot of it. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think there needs to be like quantity to find some gems that are a little bit better. And like the type of music I make, a lot of it is very sample based. I think what makes me stand out sometimes from other artists or from other producers is that sometimes I hear something in something that maybe somebody else doesn't. You need to have some kind of vision. I think a good creative compared to a great creative is it's all about having some kind of vision for your art and how strong that vision is, and that's why I'm saying like you need to spend a lot of hours like maybe honing what your vision is, maybe what kind of life experiences you have. I think a lot of younger artists, I mean, they don't have a whole lot of life experience, so it can be harder, I think, for them. And that's why sometimes it's also good to maybe read some books, get educated. I guess I tie a lot of things into whatever I do, where yeah, like I've had the privilege of, going to college, and I know like I'm good at researching things. I have outside hobbies outside of, I play video games. I've done that for a big chunk of my life, and then I stopped and then I started again. When you're playing a lot of shows, you learn a lot about yourself and about your listener. You learn about like what works and what doesn't work. And that's something that's like hard to learn unless you're doing it sometimes. I was supposed to tour in the US, but then, Trump got elected and I decided, you know what, I'm not going there. I had my visa ready to go to perform and I just canceled the whole tour. But like before that, I had done like 75 shows like all across the US, and I'd done some in Europe as well. I think putting yourself in really uncomfortable places is how you grow the most, I would say. And like it's hard for me because like I'm not like an extroverted person. I'm not the kind of person who hangs out with so many people. I get very secluded, and I think that's why I can be a good creative, because I can spend a lot of energy doing something. When you're hanging out with a bunch of people and you're spending energy, and then you get to the creative part, you don't have any more energy. How can you do something really good as a creative when you're burnt out? I would say for me, containing my own energy is very important. I take that privilege on the daily. I try to nap as much as possible. Like I want to feel as fresh as possible.
The badge that
Yeah.
you have on your shirt, like that is everything. No luck. This is not
Yeah,
you having to happen chance into this
pretty
position.
much.
It's all your work. Yeah. So this being 2026, there is a question I have to ask. We have to address the elephant in the room with this being a tech podcast as well. AI, right? As
Yeah.
a creative, firstly, we've seen the rise of platforms like Suno, Moobers,
Yeah.
and all the
I've
other
used
ones.
Suno,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, what are your thoughts on this as a creative, as someone who has been crafting the stuff for yourself? You said you have samples, you've
Yeah.
sampled before. People say AI is sampling on steroids, but without any of the permissions that are involved. Do you have any thoughts on the ethical implications of using AI in song creation? And is
I
there like
mean,
a line of acceptance kind of where there's enough, too much? How does that balance work for you?
AI with music, I find it's used by older people. And I feel like it's used by older people because sometimes it's people who haven't like spend the hours on their craft. And so maybe instead of doing that, they're going to use a prompt to make a song. And then I think they try to justify that use. Yeah, but I like to write lyrics, but I'm not good at producing or anything. I don't have the time, so I just use Suno. That's great, but it's not really ethical. And I mean, obviously with AI, there we don't really know like how it's modeled, what it's being modeled on. There's definitely a lot of question marks with music. I find there's a big push in being non AI. I find if you're telling people that you don't use AI, you usually will get more listeners than if you're saying nothing at all. I mean, but there's a lot of plugins that do use AI that are kind of AI powered. So I feel like Suno is it's more like, I guess, regenerative AI, where I mean, I think Chat GPT is like that a lot too. All that AI stuff is so new and it's so unregulated. There's a lot of people with a lot of money that are banking on it to make more money. So I can't see any of this going very well. It's kind of a shitstorm, in my
Mm.
opinion. And I think a lot of lawyers are slowly getting involved. I mean, I've seen it personally on TikTok. This one lawyer, she's getting involved with that whole Suno stuff. And like I've used Suno because obviously you're curious. I'm gonna check it out, see what it's like, and I think people who use Suno like for music for AI are people who just want to make money off of making music, and that's the easiest, fastest way to like have a product, but it doesn't make it like a good product. And at the same time, yeah, there has been songs that have charted that are AI songs, and like we're gonna keep seeing that. I feel like people shouldn't be scared of newer technology, but at the same time, knowing the human intention that it's always about making money. So I think that technology is super interesting, but how it's being used and the end result I think is not as interesting to me.
There are some few creators who I follow who echo your sentiments quite closely with this. It's like it's nice that we're championing technology, but not at the expense of the creators and the people who've kind of brought us up to this point. Because there's something great about understanding someone's expression through music. It's deeper than talking to them. It's
Yeah.
like this is kind of something that lives in their minds that they've turned from like neural waves into actual tangible sound. And I find that AI doing this, it's not the same. It's like you need to feel to express, and I'm finding that
Yeah.
we're just short circuiting that whole part that makes music so impactful.
Yeah, I think you need that humanity part. And I think that's also why I have a fan base, because you can kind of, you kind of feel me as a human being in the songs. And this is why, like, when people are so scared that AI is going to take over in creative fields, I'm personally not that scared at all. I'll still keep doing my own thing, and I just don't see AI taking over anything that I'm doing. Maybe AI will eventually emulate a human touch, but for now it's not really doing that. It's just repurposing and rehashing ideas that have already been done anyways, instead of like maybe thinking of new things, maybe thinking of different perspectives. So I guess maybe if one day AI can create their own perspective, then yeah, maybe people should be worried more. But I don't need like AI to make music. I already make music so fast anyways that I can literally release songs every week. And I mean, how much more music can I make really? I mean, I was even thinking maybe I should release more. Maybe I should just release random stuff during the middle of the week, you know? Stuff that doesn't get on Spotify's algorithm. Because, like, the reason why I release on Friday and why most people release on Friday is because, I mean, it shows up on their release radar and it's going to get into the Spotify algorithm. Today I released a song, and usually I'm gonna average about 60,000 to 80,000 streams for the first week, and then everything else is relative. But like, yeah, if you're releasing a song like on a Tuesday and it's not on the release radar, yeah, it's not gonna like hit the algorithm. In this day and age, like quantity is so important. YouTubers, they understand that. Like a lot of the most famous ones, they'll release a lot. They'll release every single day. Maybe not so much anymore because they're already super famous. But when they started, that's what they did. I still feel like there's gonna be people that listen to AI and people that prefer listening to just humans.
I'm hoping that, as there is more AI stuff taking over, the value of a human voice, a human presence, original human thoughts just gets that much more weight to it. I'm hoping. This is me hoping rather than
Yeah.
expecting. And I think it's up to us as listeners, consumers, to, make that reality a thing, right? I have one deep question that I wanted to ask you, because this has been a bit of a personal gripe of mine as someone who goes to Bandcamp to try and, get music, discoverability of music specifically. And that is the oversimplification of genre labels. Of course, there's people who listen to, Icelandic doom prog rock stuff. We're not talking about you folks who have kind of nailed down the specificity of what you listen to, but us who kind of live in the electronic side of things. I just find calling a massive swath of music electronic is overly simplistic. Like, I love drum and bass, then you got like French electro, then you have techno, then of course techno has its subgenres. I would like to petition the wider world of music, like, the music gatekeepers. Can we please get a little bit more granular in electronic music? Do you think that this is firstly useful? Does the audience care about the subdivision? And yeah, let's start with that, and then we can see how we tackle it on the wider scale.
I mean, yeah, I think it's important for the listener. I think it's also important for a creator to not get pigeonholed into a specific genre of music. So if they like make a drum and bass song, that they're not just a drum and bass artist. I feel like
Mhm.
they can do something else. Um, yeah, I do think electronic music is it's very vague. Like,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
the only genre where we've taken an instrument and turned it as the classifier, right? Everywhere else, instruments live in every genre. So why
yeah,
should the fact that we're using electronic music here confine it to a single space? Because pop has ample electronic music.
of
Linkin Park
course.
brought electronic music into rock in a big way in the mainstream. So it's like, how do we propose that we give, the diversity of electronic music as flowers from the perspective of the listeners and discoverability? Like, because Bandcamp, can we email them and say, hey, can we start breaking down this electronic tag into something a little bit more fulfilling? How do we go about this?
I totally get your issue with, trying to just discover stuff and having such a hard time. Like I get like that too. I mean, if I go on Bandcamp, there's a lot of even Spotify. It's very vague, like what goes in what. I don't know. I feel like as a creator, I think it's so important to just make music and whatever comes out will come out. I find human beings, they're so obsessed with putting things in a box, and I just don't understand why they like to classify things, I guess. Um
I get a huge kick out of classifying things, especially music
yeah.
and subgenres. Like, I've got like 11 different drum and bass playlists, each for like a mood, a tone.
Yeah.
And often the mood or tone is influenced by just the presence of a heavy sub bass or not, kind of.
Yeah.
So this is for my own personal sorting, because I get a little obsessive with it. I'm not saying this is reflective on the wider listening populace in any means. Yeah, so you're in the camp of let it be organic and let it flow rather than.
That's what I think. I don't know. I but I understand though that like people are so different that
Hmm.
some people really want subgenres to be like really well defined. And I mean, I have the same problem if I'm uploading on DistroKid or on Spotify for artists when I'm submitting what kind of music, and I don't always know. Like, okay, I guess I'll just put pop or something just because it has songwriting and vocals, but I know it's not that. I think it's good to have subgenres of music. I think it's good for a listener. I think it's not good for a creator because
Okay.
creators, if I was defined by all the music that came up with me, then I'd just be tropical house music. And I've obviously done a lot more than that kind of sound. And so, but I understand for a listener, I understand that you want to feel informed in some way, that time is limited, and sometimes you don't have the all the time in the world to discover artists, so you want something to be more specific. I feel like there's so many artists that can go in different genre music. Like I see that a lot in like punk rock music, where like I know like all the artists that are in punk rock, and then you listen to all the newer artists that do punk rock, and you're not really sure if it's punk rock or not, or if it's just rock, or if it's something totally different.
Yeah.
um
Like heavy
but
metal
yeah,
from the
like,
80s versus heavy metal of the noughties. It's
yeah,
entirely
it's
different
different.
things, right?
Yeah, like a lot of it is very era based. I think it really depends, like, who you are as a person. I think like some people, they really want their things classified something specific, and I do feel like that as a consumer. I do feel like that. Like if I'm on Netflix and I'm trying to find a horror movie to watch with Jessica, I want a horror movie. I don't want like a thriller. I don't
Hmm.
want an action movie. I want something that's gonna be scary. But at the same time, I think genres are so vague. Sometimes you get like two or three artists that really define that genre of music, and then you get other variations around it. I find that are that they're that, but they're not that.
Like the
They're
extremes
something
of the
different.
spectrum are very easy to
Yeah,
define, right? But then when it
yeah.
comes to what the gray area, where does it actually go from one to the other?
Yeah, and I find with Bandcamp, there's a lot of indie artists, so a lot of it is going to be even more vague because not every indie artist knows how to market themselves to be discovered. And frankly, I mean, I think when you're indie and trying to be discovered and trying to fit into something, that's something that you have to like learn and refine every day, and you don't really know where it's going to lead. I didn't know I was going to like show my face or whatever when I even perform, you know.
Nice.
I had like a mask on when I used to perform at
Oh,
the very
wow.
beginning. Yeah. I feel like I have it here. Let's see. Let's see. Where did I put it? Yeah, I have it right here actually.
Oh,
And I would
nice.
like that's how I was performing back then.
Thank you for not doing the interview with it on though. Like this is my first
Yeah, because
episode
the
with
sound's
video,
probably
and
really
like,
bad. But yeah, I used to perform like this back then. And sometimes I bring it back just for fun, you know? That
uh-huh.
was like my first iteration. That was my first iteration of what I thought. And who knows, it might come back too. But like
Yeah, who knows?
it just shows like being a creative, I find like you just go through different phases with different artists. Sometimes there's a specific project that they do that's a specific genre of music, and then a different project they do that's completely different. And I think that can be very hard to like define for Bandcamp, for Beatport, for Spotify, because I listen to some artists that have done really electronic albums, and then you listen to their next album and it's more like indie rock. Then
Hmm.
you're like,
Hmm.
wait, but it's the same artist. And I think a lot of times when that person is talented, you're gonna accept them, I think, in their different iterations. And I would say for really popular artists, sometimes they get accepted too much, where they change styles of music and they're like, oh yeah, I'm all in, you know. it's very big, like to do rap and then go into country somehow. I don't know why, but
Nice, nice. So, Chris, this has been an amazing chat. I could go on all day, but for the sake of my listeners, we do have to have an end to the podcast. But you told me you have a gig coming up, so let's plug that
yes.
in. And also, please tell the folks at home where they can find you online, where they can connect with you, and how they can engage with your work in a way that makes you most happy as well.
I have a really amazing show coming up February 13th at the Dance Cave in Toronto. I mean, it's also Lee's Palace. So if people are not familiar with the Dance Cave, it's just one room inside of Lee's Palace. And yeah, so it's going to be a great show. I think it starts at 7 p.m. It's going to be like a Valentine's Day, theme type of, just because it's so close to Valentine's Day. I mean, this is the thing, like at my shows, there's usually a lot of women that come to my shows. So if you're a single person, then that's probably one of the best places to be at. And yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be performing for a while, and I do a lot of requests usually. So sometimes some people in the crowd, they're like, we want to hear this song, and I tend to perform it. So that's also a pretty cool aspect of my live performances, especially when people are knowledgeable of your music and they're like, "Oh, I want to hear this random song off of this random album compilation you did." So that's always really really fun. And I mean, I'm going to provide some free t-shirts as well for the show. I'm releasing a song on January 30th on Sam Feld's label. And the song is called Better Times. And I think that's going to be released on his label and on Disco Wax, either Disco Wax or Spinnin' Records. I mean, yeah, it's not confirmed or anything for my European tour, and that would be April. I just release a lot of music, so people can just go on Spotify. They can go on Instagram, TikTok. I'm usually on those platforms, and obviously, Apple Music, Amazon, and all those different platforms. But definitely, I think most people go on Spotify. I mean, my mailing list, like on tepno.com, I definitely want to start doing more giveaways. I mean, I've shipped like a lot of t-shirts and vinyls, and I want to do a new run of vinyls because I did like a quick 100 run of vinyls, and they'd like sold right away. So I want to make another one. Yeah, no, that's about it, really. Thanks for having me, and thanks for
Thank
hearing
you
my
so much.
rants and my
Anytime,
opinions.
anytime. It's amazing seeing an artist like you flourish online. So thank you for sharing your journey, your process, the challenges of it all. I'm hoping this will inspire, some folks who have, musical chops, but just don't know where to start. I hope you've helped clarify their journey a little bit. And
Yeah,
yes,
for sure. I mean, that's why I do those podcasts. And that's why I make music anyways, because you want to inspire people. You want to inspire people. You want to help people get through tough times. That's another thing I didn't really talk about in the podcast, but the amount of emails and messages I get from people saying, "Hey, I was going through a really tough time in my life, and just listening to your songs just helped me through this really really tough time, whether it's sometimes it's a divorce, sometimes it's people and family coming back from the army, and they go through tough times. And I think as a creative, that's what I do a lot, is I definitely want to help people get through good times and get through tough times. Like I want to inspire people, and also I get inspired by a lot of those messages sometimes on days where I don't want to keep going.
that's amazing. Folks, this is an open invitation to just send a heartwarming message to artists who have an impact on your life, See how much it means to Chris. So just all of your favorite artists, just take some time out in the next week to send them a quick message to show them how much you appreciate them. And I think on that incredibly uplifting note, we can call it a day. This is Chris and Marv signing off from season 2 of Is This the New Internet podcast. Stay tuned. There's going to be plenty more. Please visit all of Chris's socials. They are in the description. Buy Chris's music. Listen to Chris on Spotify. And make sure you attend that show. It sounds like it's going to be an amazing time.
Yes.
I might even see you there. So take care all. Bye-bye. Catch you very soon. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate all ratings, thumbs up, shares on whichever platform that you're listening to this. Don't forget to subscribe if you're on YouTube. Those subscriptions really, really help with the visibility of my channel. If you like this, then I think you're going to love my Substack because I get into more detail on things. I try to publish as frequently as I can because there's just so much happening online. I won't promise to have all the answers, but what I can do is promise that I can show you the journey that we're going on so you can reach your own conclusions. There's plenty more episodes where this came from, so enjoy. Catch you on the next one. Cheers.